For the last phase of this, then, I'm going to add a seamless backdrop behind this template just to give some separation between it and the background. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a polygon primitive plane, and I know I'm going to want it relatively big, so I'm going to, let's say, make it 45 units by 30 units, and I want a lot of divisions, so I'll say 30 by 30. And we'll create that in, I'm looking right at the z-axis here, so let's create that in the z-axis because I want it to drop behind. Okay, so there we've got it, and you can see, let's go to the layouts and say save layouts and say 4 view. Okay, so we can see now where the plane is relative to the rib cage, and obviously we want to move it back in the z-axis so it's behind there. Okay, we're also going to try to see if we can scale it, because I don't want to see any background when I'm in my perspective view. And let's reduce this area down so we can see that a little better. Okay, so it looks like it needs to go back still a little further. Maybe come down. Okay, still get a little bigger. Alright, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to use a new tool that we haven't used before to bend it so it's a seam, or if we look here in the side view, you can see it's just a straight wall right now. I'm going to bend it to kind of give that seamless view you see often in a photo studio. Alright, so I've got it selected. I'm going to delete its history. I'm going to freeze its transformations. And I don't need to, but I'm going to center the pivot because it's already centered. Now I'm going to go into a different collection of tools. I'm going to go to the rigging tool set, and under that there is something called deform, and inside the deform I'm going to the nonlinear bend. Now when I release this, what you'll see if I open up my outliner is now something called a bend handle, and that's what I have selected right now. That's been applied. Now right now we have the bend handle selected, and we're looking at the move tool. So what I want to do is get to the transform tool. In other words, the tool lets me operate this bend handle. So if I hit the letter T like in transform, you notice now I get these blue handles. Okay, and let's see if I can find them easier for you here. Okay, so you can see the blue handles. This represents the top of the deformer, this represents the bottom, and this handle right here represents the thing that actually changes it. And notice if I grab that middle one, I'm deforming the plane, but it's not really, it's obviously going in the wrong plane. In other words, it's bending it in the z-axis. I'd like it to bend it really in the y-axis, I think. So let's undo that, and I can look at my bend handle and make sure that everything, the curvature is at 0. That's how I know that there's no bending there. I'm going to go back and select, the bend handle is still selected, and I'm going to rotate 90 degrees in the y-axis. Bend handle is still selected. I'm going to hit that transform tool again, the letter T, and this time when I pull that, see we're bending, go back to that, you can see it easier from the side window. See how I'm bending now the wall. So that's going to change how we see this as the backdrop. Now I mentioned we have these other handles, right? two blue ones. One represents the top. So if I grab that top one and bring it down, notice what's happening. It's taking some of the bend out of that top. And if I bring the bottom one up and increase it, I'm actually bending the bottom more. And I can do things also. I can move the entire bend handle. And right now it's going to change where that is on, in other words, how it positions itself relative to the plane. Okay, so if I get something like about that, and I look at that, that looks pretty good. And I say, give me the bookmark we made. And I render it. Let's see what we get. So if you look, here's my render. You can see it took 1 minute and 39 seconds to render. I really got what I wanted. In other words, I got dark, a little darkening on the light side, and the bend at the bottom of the plane brought some light. The one thing you may notice is there's not the blue light, the fill light seems to be missing. Okay, and I think what's happening is the plane is blocking that out a little bit. So we're going to work on improving that. The other thing I'm going to do is I'm going to change this color of the plane real quickly now, so we can maybe see it stand out a little more and have a more consistent color back there. So I'm going to do the same thing we just did. I'm just going to make some room. So I'm going to take a AI standard. I'm going to change its color to, let's say, a dark blue like that. I'll right mouse on there and say rename. Call that backdrop. Okay. We'll go back to the render view, and I can put my box out here. Remember, we did that box. And let's see if that will go fast enough. Okay, well, what I did wrong was I forgot to attach the shader to the surface. So let's go back to my window here, grab the plane, right mouse, say assign existing material, and say backdrop. Now let's once again drag a box. See if we get that blue behind there. There you go. So there's the backdrop we have now, but like I said, we're not getting any color in here from the light, so we'll work on that in the next tape.